chosen one. What you're about to discover is how your refusal to be broken became the earthquake that shattered an entire network of deception, how your commitment to truth became the light that exposed decades of hidden manipulation, and how your story became the wake-up call that liberated everyone who had been trapped in someone else's web of lies. You didn't just survive the most sophisticated spiritual warfare campaign ever launched against someone of your caliber, you transformed it into the greatest demonstration of divine justice your community has ever witnessed, proving that when darkness targets a chosen vessel, it only succeeds in orchestrating its own complete and permanent destruction. The attack began with surgical precision against you. Your world was studied like a general preparing for war, your relationships mapped out, your support systems identified, your connections catalogued. Who you trusted, who you loved, who had influence in your life, all of this became intelligence gathered for your destruction. This wasn't random chaos directed at you, this was calculated psychological warfare designed to isolate you completely before delivering the killing blow. You found yourself facing infiltration from every angle. Concerned allies appeared, helpful friends who had witnessed troubling behavior from you. The conviction, the apparent sincerity with which these accusations were delivered, made even the most discerning people begin to question what they thought they knew about you. But here's where expertise became weakness. The lies about you were so overcomplicated that every fabrication required 10 more to support it. Every manipulation directed at you demanded increasingly desperate measures to maintain. You watched as flying monkeys were recruited against you, unwitting accomplices who believed that attacking you meant protecting everyone else. These people, good-hearted souls who had been weaponized through careful psychological manipulation, became the delivery system for poisonous lies about you. Triangulation was perfected around you, with different stories told to different people about you, creating a web of confusion where no one had the complete picture about you, but everyone was certain about your guilt. Your refusal to break, your commitment to truth, your unwavering alignment with divine principle created cracks in the narrative being built around you. People began comparing their stories about you. Details didn't match when it came to describing your alleged behavior. Timelines shifted depending on who was telling them about you. The very complexity that had made accusations against you seem powerful was now making them vulnerable to scrutiny. Still, the campaign against you pressed forward, driven by a desperation that was growing more palpable by the day. Tactics escalated around you, crossing lines that had never been crossed before in targeting you. Evidence was fabricated about you, recordings were manipulated to incriminate you, authority figures were even impersonated to give lies about you the appearance of legitimacy. Such commitment to your destruction meant abandoning every principle of caution that had previously kept this darkness hidden. What wasn't realized was that each escalation against you was being witnessed, recorded, remembered. Flying monkeys were beginning to see inconsistencies in stories about you. Narratives about you were becoming too elaborate to track. Emotions were becoming too intense for someone who claimed to be merely concerned about your behavior. The mask was slipping when it came to discussing you, and underneath it, people were getting glimpses of something that made them profoundly uncomfortable about the campaign against you. The moment of truth came when pride finally overruled cunning in your attacker's strategy. Operating in shadows for so long made stepping into full light feel like a natural progression of power against you. Your attacker believed the propaganda about you. Conviction grew that your entire world had been successfully turned against you, that movement against you could now happen with complete impunity. This is when you witnessed the fatal error, sloppiness born of arrogance. Drunk on perceived victory over you, evidence trails started being left behind. Digital footprints about you weren't covered. Previous statements about you were contradicted. Too much pressure was applied to people who were already beginning to question the narrative about you. Most critically, the intelligence and intuition of the very people who had been manipulated against you was underestimated. You watched as the first crack appeared when someone started asking questions about you that couldn't be answered without revealing lies. Then you saw another person notice inconsistencies in the timeline concerning you. Then you observed someone else remember a conversation about you that didn't match the official story. Like dominoes falling in sequence around your situation, each revelation triggered another. Each exposure led to deeper investigation into what was really happening to you. You could sense panic setting in among your attackers. For the first time in a career of deception, control of the narrative about you was being lost. You witnessed desperate moves reaching out to people who had lost contact, trying to recruit new allies against you, even attempting to fabricate new evidence to shore up the crumbling story about your alleged wrongdoing. But desperation made your attackers reckless, and recklessness made them visible to everyone watching your situation unfold. When the full scope of their deception was finally revealed, the exposure was total and permanent. This wasn't just a correction of the record, this was a complete dismantling of everything they had built their identity around. Their reputation wasn't damaged, it was obliterated. Their influence wasn't diminished, it was non-existent. Their ability to manipulate wasn't reduced, it was completely neutralized. The people they had turned against you became your strongest advocates. The communities they had poisoned with lies became the foundation of your vindication. The very tactics they had used to destroy others became the instruments of their own destruction. Every lie they had told was now being used as evidence against them. Every manipulation they had deployed was now being examined under the microscope of public scrutiny. The shapeshifter found themselves in a position they had never experienced, completely isolated, thoroughly exposed, permanently marked by their own choices. They had become exactly what they had always been but had managed to hide, a cautionary tale, a living example of what happens when someone declares war against divine order. As the truth spread through every corner of your shared universe, something even more profound emerged. This wasn't just about exposing one predator, this was about educating an entire community on how these predators operate. People learned to recognize the signs of manipulation. They understood how gaslighting works. They saw how flying monkeys are recruited and deployed. The very methods that had made this shapeshifter successful for decades were now being studied, understood, and neutralized by everyone they had once deceived. If you need help recognizing manipulation signs, understanding gaslighting methods, or neutralizing predatory patterns that have deceived you, Destiny Engine can reprogram your consciousness to see clearly and protect yourself effectively. You can start with just a $1 trial to experience how personalized brain reprogramming eliminates vulnerability to shapeshifter tactics. Destiny Engine uses declassified CIA agent programming to help you recognize and neutralize the manipulation patterns in your own consciousness. It generates custom sequences that fit your unique spiritual needs. The hardest thing you'll have to do is put on headphones, press play, and allow your consciousness to be reprogrammed to recognize manipulation without doubting your own perceptions. This isn't software. This is consciousness reprogramming technology that neutralizes predatory manipulation by eliminating self-doubt and installing clear pattern recognition. Results are not typical. But then again, neither are people who reprogram themselves to see through shapeshifter tactics rather than fall for them repeatedly. Get your $1 Destiny Engine trial now, before the trial window closes. Link in the description. Remember how this story began, with a master manipulator who thought they could play God with your life. Now as we reach the end, that same manipulator sits powerless, their influence destroyed, their network dismantled, their reputation permanently stained by their own choices. The shapeshifter who once moved like a phantom through communities now exists as a permanent warning sign, a living reminder of what happens when darkness challenges light and loses. But you, chosen one, have emerged from this transformed crucible. You discovered that your light doesn't just illuminate, it purifies entire communities. Your truth doesn't just inform, it liberates everyone who witnesses it. Your story doesn't just inspire, it becomes the foundation for collective healing that extends far beyond anything you could have imagined. The universe needed someone strong enough to handle this assignment, someone who would remain uncorrupted by the process, someone who would trust divine timing even when immediate vindication would have been easier. The universe needed someone who would stand firm when everyone else had been turned against them, someone who would speak truth when silence would have been safer, someone who would serve as the catalyst for the complete exposure of a network of deception that had operated unchecked for far too long. The universe needed you, and you answered that call with such grace, such power, such unwavering commitment to truth, that the very foundations of deception crumbled beneath the weight of your authenticity. This is your story now, not a tale of survival, but a legend of transformation. Not a narrative of what was done to you, but an epic of what was accomplished through you. The predator who thought they could rewrite reality discovered that truth has a way of surfacing that no amount of manipulation can prevent. The shapeshifter who believed they could control perception found themselves exposed in ways that made concealment impossible. The master manipulator who had spent decades perfecting their craft learned that there is a level of divine justice that operates beyond human understanding or intervention. Now, as you stand in the aftermath of this spiritual earthquake, you can see the full scope of what transpired. You weren't just defending yourself, you were executing a divine assignment. You weren't just surviving an attack, you were serving as the instrument through which cosmic order reasserted itself. You weren't just exposing one liar, you were dismantling an entire system of deception that had infected countless lives across multiple generations. The person who once moved through your world like a virus, spreading confusion and chaos wherever they went, now exists as permanent proof that no one, no matter how skilled, how cunning, how seemingly untouchable, can wage war against a chosen one and emerge victorious. Their story has become a warning that echoes through every dimension of consciousness. Challenge divine order at your own peril. This is what happens when chosen ones fully step into their power and allow divine justice to flow through them like a river of truth that no amount of deception can ever dam with again. Welcome to your victory, divine warrior. The universe is already preparing your next assignment, because once you've proven yourself capable of handling this level of spiritual warfare, there's no limit to what you can accomplish in service of truth, justice, and the complete obliteration of darkness wherever it dares to show its face. Before we close this cosmic chapter, you need to understand the full magnitude of what your courage unleashed. Remember, when this all started, they kept detailed records, not of their own crimes, but of everyone else's supposed transgressions. They maintained what could only be described as a burn book, filled with fabricated evidence, manipulated conversations, and carefully crafted narratives designed to destroy reputations on command. This journal was their insurance policy, their nuclear option, their way of maintaining control over anyone who dared to challenge their authority. That same journal, once the source of their power, became the smoking gun that exposed everything. When people started comparing stories about you, they realized that this predator had been collecting similar evidence on everyone in their orbit. The same tactics, the same patterns, the same manufactured crises that had been used against you had been deployed against countless others over the years. The journal entries revealed a mind so twisted that it documented not just lies but the planning of those lies. They had written down strategies for isolating victims, methods for turning communities against individuals, even backup plans for when their primary narratives started falling apart. This wasn't random malice, this was systematic psychological terrorism, and the evidence was all in their own handwriting. As these revelations spread, something extraordinary happened. People who had been estranged from each other for years suddenly realized they had been manipulated into conflict. Families that had been torn apart by this predator's whispers began to reconcile. Friends who had stopped speaking because of planted seeds of doubt started reaching out to each other. The realization that they had all been pawns in someone else's sick game created a bond between former enemies that was stronger than any friendship they had shared before. In this modern age, your shapeshifter had left digital footprints everywhere they went. They had created fake profiles to stalk and harass. They had screenshot private conversations out of context. They had manipulated photos and audio recordings with technology that made their deception seem credible at first glance, but technology that enables deception also preserves evidence of that deception. When their digital activities came under scrutiny, the investigation revealed a pattern of behavior so disturbing that it shocked even those who thought they knew the full extent of their capabilities. They had been catfishing people to extract personal information. They had been impersonating authority figures to gain access to private spaces. They had even created entirely fictional personas to spread rumors about their targets from multiple angles. The most chilling discovery was how they had weaponized social media algorithms to amplify their lies. They understood how to game the system, how to make their fabricated stories appear in people's feeds at precisely the right moments to maximum psychological impact. They had turned the very platforms designed to bring people together into weapons of mass manipulation. But their technological sophistication became their undoing when forensic analysis revealed the metadata behind their deceptions. Every edited photo contained evidence of manipulation. Every fake profile was linked back to their devices. Every impersonation left digital DNA that could be traced directly to them. The very tools they had used to destroy others became the evidence that destroyed them. What made this predator so dangerous wasn't just their willingness to lie, it was their understanding of human psychology. They knew exactly which buttons to push to trigger emotional responses. They understood how to exploit people's insecurities, their need to belong, their desire to protect their community. They had studied manipulation the way others study medicine or law, turning it into a dark art that they wielded with surgical precision. Their victims weren't stupid or weak. They were targeted specifically because they were empathetic, trusting, and community-minded. The shapeshifter had learned that good people want to believe the best of others, want to give second chances, want to assume that accusations must have some basis in truth. They weaponized these beautiful human qualities, turning them against the very people who possessed them. The flying monkeys they recruited were chosen just as carefully. These weren't malicious people, they were individuals who genuinely believed they were protecting their community from a threat. The shapeshifter fed them just enough truth mixed with lies to make their stories believable. They provided just enough evidence mixed with fabrication to make their accusations seem credible. They created just enough urgency mixed with righteousness to make their missions feel noble. When these flying monkeys finally realized they had been used, their anger was volcanic. They felt violated not just personally, but spiritually. They had allowed themselves to become instruments of harm against innocent people, and that knowledge was devastating. But that devastation transformed into determination to make things right, to expose the truth, to protect others from falling into the same trap. Your story didn't just wake up your immediate community, it created waves that spread far beyond your original circle. Other victims from different cities, different states, even different countries began recognizing the patterns and coming forward with their own experiences. The shapeshifters' methods were so distinctive, so specifically cruel, that survivors could identify them from descriptions alone. A network of healing began to form, connected by the shared experience of having survived this particular brand of psychological warfare. Support groups emerged organically, resource sharing became automatic, warning systems developed naturally, as people who had been burned once refused to let others suffer the same fate. But perhaps most importantly, a new form of spiritual literacy began to spread. People started understanding how manipulation actually works, how to recognize it in real time, how to protect themselves and others from these tactics. The community that had once been vulnerable to this predator's lies became immunized against all predators who operated with similar methods. Children who had been confused by adult conflicts suddenly understood why their families had been in chaos. Teenagers who had been turned against their own parents realized they had been manipulated. Young adults who had lost friends over manufactured drama discovered the truth behind their isolation. The healing wasn't just happening among the primary victims, it was extending through generations. While legal proceedings may or may not have followed, the court of public opinion delivered a verdict that was swift, unanimous, and permanent. The evidence was so overwhelming, so thoroughly documented, so clearly presented, that there was no room for doubt about what had transpired. The shapeshifter's reputation wasn't just damaged, it was obliterated beyond any possibility of repair. They found themselves in the unique position of being universally known for their deception. Every new person they met would eventually hear their story. Every community they tried to join would be warned about their methods. Every relationship they attempted to build would be haunted by their documented history of manipulation and betrayal. The most poetic aspect of their downfall was how it mirrored their own tactics. Just as they had used whisper campaigns to destroy others, whisper campaigns now followed them everywhere they went. Just as they had weaponized people's protective instincts against their targets, people's protective instincts were now weaponized against them. Just as they had made their victims unemployable, unhireable, and unwelcome, they now faced the same social and professional exile. But unlike their victims who had been innocent of the charges against them, the shapeshifter's exile was based on documented truth. Every warning shared about them was backed by evidence. Every story told about their behavior was verified by multiple witnesses. Every consequence they faced was earned through their own choices. What happened to you wasn't just psychological manipulation, it was spiritual warfare of the highest order. This predator wasn't just attacking your reputation or your relationships. They were attempting to steal your very essence, to corrupt your connection to the divine, to convince you that light was darkness and darkness was light. They understood that destroying your spirit was more valuable than destroying your circumstances, because a broken spirit creates broken circumstances automatically. They targeted your faith, your intuition, your connection to source energy. They tried to make you doubt not just what you knew about the situation, but what you knew about yourself, about reality, about the nature of good and evil. The darker the attack, the brighter the light that emerges from surviving it. Every lie they told about you strengthened your commitment to truth. Every relationship they poisoned clarified your understanding of authentic connection. Every moment of isolation they created deepened your relationship with the divine source that never abandoned you. Your spiritual warfare training was intense, but it was also comprehensive. You learned to discern between authentic guidance and manipulative suggestion. You developed the ability to stand alone when necessary, while remaining open to genuine support when it appeared. You mastered the art of maintaining your integrity under pressure, while refusing to become bitter or cynical in response to betrayal. Looking back now, you can see that everything unfolded exactly as it was meant to. The universe needed a catalyst powerful enough to expose this level of deception, and you were chosen for that role long before you understood what it would require. Your light wasn't just bright enough to illuminate truth, it was pure enough to remain uncorrupted throughout the entire ordeal. The prophecy written in your spiritual DNA was always that you would serve as an instrument of divine justice, that your life would become a demonstration of what happens when authentic power meets manufactured chaos. You weren't just surviving an attack, you were fulfilling your cosmic purpose as the one through whom hidden things would be revealed and crooked paths would be made straight. Every person who witnessed your story learned something essential about the nature of truth, about the power of integrity, about the inevitability of justice when divine order is allowed to operate without interference. Your experience became a teaching tool that educated entire communities about recognizing and resisting manipulation. Your story woke everybody up, chosen one, and in waking them up, it fulfilled the very purpose for which you were chosen, to serve as a living demonstration that no amount of deception can ultimately overcome truth, no level of manipulation can permanently suppress justice, and no force of darkness can extinguish light that burns with divine fire. You need to understand something profound about what you just experienced, chosen one. This wasn't just an attack on your character, this was a spiritual initiation disguised as warfare. Every lie you endured refined your ability to discern truth. Every betrayal you survived strengthened your capacity to recognize authentic loyalty. Every moment of isolation you walked through deepened your understanding of your own unshakable foundation. When you were standing alone, surrounded by voices telling you that your perception of reality was wrong, you discovered something incredible about yourself. Your inner compass didn't waver, your connection to truth didn't falter, your commitment to integrity didn't bend. You learned that you carry within yourself an unbreachable sanctuary where no external force can reach, no matter how sophisticated their psychological warfare becomes. You've been forged in fires that would have destroyed lesser souls, and what emerged from those flames isn't just stronger, it's fundamentally transformed. You now possess a level of spiritual discernment that most people never develop. You can spot manipulation from miles away. You can sense deception before it fully forms. You can recognize the energy signature of someone who operates from a foundation of lies, and you know exactly how to protect yourself and others from their influence. Throughout this ordeal, your intuitive abilities expanded exponentially. You started receiving downloads of information that you couldn't possibly have known through conventional means. You began sensing energies, recognizing patterns, understanding dynamics that others couldn't perceive. What you thought was just gut feeling was actually your spiritual gifts coming online in response to the intensity of what you were facing. You learned to trust these intuitive hits even when they contradicted what everyone else was telling you. You discovered that your inner knowledge was more reliable than any external evidence they could fabricate. You developed the courage to act on spiritual guidance even when it made no logical sense from a human perspective. This wasn't just survival, this was spiritual evolution accelerated by extreme circumstances. The visions you started having, the dreams that felt too real to be random, the synchronicities that appeared exactly when you needed them most, these weren't coincidences. These were confirmation that you were operating under divine protection, that your assignment was being guided from realms beyond the physical, that your victory was assured long before the final battle was fought. Something fundamental shifted in your energy signature during this process. You started vibrating at a frequency that automatically repels deception. People who operate from false foundations can't stay comfortable in your presence for long. Your very existence now serves as a truth detector that exposes inauthentic energy simply by being yourself. You discovered that your light doesn't just illuminate, it has the power to reveal hidden agendas, expose concealed motives, and bring shadow aspects into clear view. This isn't something you have to try to do. It happens automatically because your frequency has been calibrated to divine truth through the refining process you just completed. The people who can remain in your orbit now are those who operate from genuine places. The relationships that can withstand your new energy signature are those built on authentic foundations. You've become a living filter that naturally separates truth from deception, substance from superficiality, genuine connection from manipulative attachment. What you accomplished extends far beyond your personal victory. You've become a catalyst for truth-telling that will ripple through generations. Children who witness this exposure will grow up with enhanced ability to recognize manipulation. Teenagers who observe this process will enter adulthood with stronger boundaries and clearer discernment. Young adults who learned from your example will build relationships on more solid foundations. You've demonstrated that it's possible to maintain integrity under extreme pressure, to stand alone when necessary, to trust divine timing, even when immediate vindication would feel better. Your example gave others permission to trust their own perceptions, to speak their own truths, to refuse to accept distorted versions of reality, no matter how many people are promoting them. The courage you displayed in facing this level of spiritual warfare has inspired others to face their own battles with greater confidence. The wisdom you gained through this process has become available to anyone who needs guidance in similar situations. The strength you developed has become a resource that others can draw upon when they're facing their own dark nights of the soul. You've proven that chosen ones don't just survive attacks, they transform them into victory stories that educate, inspire, and empower entire communities. Your refusal to be broken by their deception became the key that unlocked freedom for everyone who had been trapped in their web of lies. This victory isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of your true mission. You've been tested, proven, and equipped for even greater assignments. The universe now knows that you can handle sophisticated spiritual warfare without losing your integrity, your compassion, or your connection to divine guidance. You've graduated from warrior training, and now you're ready for the real work. You carry within yourself now a spiritual technology that can neutralize psychological warfare. Your presence alone can disrupt manipulation campaigns. Your testimony can expose hidden agendas. Your example can inspire others to stand firm in their own truth, regardless of the pressure they face to conform to false narratives. The shapeshifter who attacked you thought they were eliminating a threat to their power. Instead, they created their own replacement, someone who carries all their knowledge of manipulation tactics, but uses that knowledge to protect rather than exploit, to heal rather than harm, to liberate rather than enslave. Their nightmare has only just begun, but your legend has only just been written, and legends, unlike nightmares, last forever. You've become living proof that no amount of darkness can extinguish light that burns with divine fire, and that truth will always find a way to surface, no matter how deeply it's buried under layers of deception.